Tonight on Y News, President Rodrigo Duterte says he will invoke the Philippines' rights over the disputed territory in the West Philippine Sea during his visit to China this month. The Department of Health declares a national dengue epidemic as cases of the mosquito-borne disease continue to increase. Inflation further cools in July due to slower price increases of food and electricity. And Meralco rates to go down this month. President Rodrigo Duterte will invoke the arbitral ruling favoring the Philippines on the maritime dispute in the West Philippine Sea during his Beijing visit this month. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
He said, remember that I said before that there will be a time when I will invoke that arbitral ruling. This is the time. That's why I'm going there.
Although the palace has not given details on the date of President Rodrigo Duterte's fifth visit to China, Secretary Panelo said the chief executive will invoke the Hague ruling that favors the Philippines over China in the maritime dispute in the West Philippine Sea during his one-on-one meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. This since his term is nearing an end. The said arbitral ruling concludes that there was no legal basis for China to claim the entire South China Sea. The palace lets the president decide on how he will invoke the arbitral ruling with the Chinese leader. Other issues concerning the maritime dispute are expected to be discussed, including the Recto Bank maritime incident.
He's also interested in that 60-40 joint exploration on minerals, oil. Pag-uusapan nila.
Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
Manila City Mayor Isko Moreno proposes to have special laws or amendments to the law that will immediately penalize barangay and police officials who neglect their duties in the road clearing and cleaning works. He also gives a piece of advice to his fellow public servants. Nel Maribohok explains why.
Manila City Mayor Isko Moreno says there is no fund needed in performing road clearing operations. He advises his fellow public servants not to accept bribe if what they're after are clean roads.
Gusto nyo bang malinis ang kalye? Simple-simple lang. Huwag kayong tatanggap. Huwag kayong tatanggap ng tangga.
He also proposes to Senate to penalize public officials who do not perform their duty to clear roads of obstructions and to maintain clean surroundings.
Ayoko pong pangunahan ng Senado, merong nakalatag, napicturan, nakalatag, bukas, suspendido na si chairman. Yung less po, iskerda na.
Interior Secretary Eduardo Año meanwhile emphasizes that local officials have the responsibility to maintain the cleanliness of their vicinities even after the 60-day period given the Metro Manila mayors. He commends the Manila City Mayor for his efforts in his locality to comply with the directive of President Rodrigo Duterte on local chief executives.
Kung lahat po ng mayor ay katulad ni Mayor Isko Moreno, siguro mababawasan o baka wala na tayong problema sa buong Pilipinas.
Nel Maribohok, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
The country's inflation has further slowed down to 2.4% last month, according to the Philippine Statistics Authority. Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas attributes this to the ample domestic food supply conditions. Arlene Delgado explains why.
The increase in the prices of goods and services in the country slowed down last month at 2.4%. This is lower compared with the 2.7% recorded in June and the 5.8% in July last year. Last month's inflation rate is also the lowest since January 2017. It is within Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas' target range for the month, which is 2 to 2.8%. According to National Statistician Claire Dennis Mapa, the main drivers of the downtrend are food and non-alcoholic beverages, particularly the easing of prices of rice and corn, housing, water, electricity, gas and other fuels, and transport. Inflation in the National Capital Region also eased at 2.3% in July. The lowest inflation among the regions outside NCR is Region 7 or the Central Visayas at 1.1%, while the highest is in Region 4B or Mimaropa at 4.9% due to higher transport costs. The BSP remains firm that this will continue in the third quarter of the year before settling at the 3.0% target range for 2019 and 2020. The National Economic Development Authority welcomes the development, but assures to remain on guard on possible upward risks such as adverse weather conditions, possible entry of the African swine fever, and the volatility of oil prices in the global market. The palace, meanwhile, expresses confidence that this inflation will continue. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo says the slow inflation in July only shows the hard work and strong political will of the Duterte administration. Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Good news to every household. Meralco announces their electricity rates will go down for the fourth straight month this August. Joan Nano tells us why.
The Manila Electric Company or Meralco lowered their power rate this month due to decreased generation charge. That is the price of electricity coming from power plants.
Ang dahilan ay yung pagbabaho sa supply na nanggagaling o na binibili natin mula sa wholesale electricity spot market o WESM, primarily because of improved supply conditions.
Meralco say that for 200 kilowatt hours consumption in a month, a household electricity will be 83 pesos lower. With 300 kilowatt hour consumption, 125 pesos can be saved, 167 pesos for 400 kilowatt hours, and 209 pesos for 500 kilowatt hours. To sum up, the power rate has gone down by almost 1 peso per kilowatt hour over the past 4 months.
Sakali man magkaroon ng adjustment dyan, hindi na masyadong magiging abrupt. If the trend in the spot market continues and its supply continues to be more than adequate, then aasahan natin really is for prices to be flattish.
The electric power distributor add their rate may further go lower in the following months if supply from power plants remains sufficient. Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasig City.
Maynilad and Manila Water are slapped with a 921.4 million peso fine over violations of the Clean Water Act. The 14-0 votes, the Supreme Court en banc found Maynilad and Manila Water Sewerage System or MWSS jointly liable. The two parties are ordered to pay a fine covering May 7, 2009 until the date of promulgation. Meanwhile, Manila Water and MWSS are asked to pay the same amount covering the same period. The petitioners should pay within 15 days from the receipt of the decision. On top of this, petitioners shall be fined 322,000 pesos a day when they receive a copy of the decision until they have fully paid the million peso fine each. A legal interest of 6% yearly is also imposed by the en banc. The southwest monsoon continuously affects Luzon and Visayas. Based on Pagasa's forecast, scattered rain showers with high probability of heavy rains will be experienced in Mimaropa, Zambales, Bataan, and western Visayas. The rest of the country will experience isolated rain showers and thunderstorms. Cloudy skies with rain showers and thunderstorms will prevail over the National Capital Region. At 3 p.m. today, severe tropical storm Hannah was estimated at 700 kilometers east of Calayan, Cagayan. Its trough will bring rains in Cagayan Valley area, but is less likely to make landfall in any part of the country. Meanwhile, a low-pressure area was located at 310 kilometers west of Iba, Zambales.
Welcome back to Y News. We pick up to where Angelo Castro III left off. I'm Alex Baltazar, and here are the headlines. President Rodrigo Duterte rules out martial law declaration in Negros Oriental. The Department of Health declares a national dengue epidemic as cases of the mosquito-borne disease continue to increase. The Maritime Industry Authority begins its investigation into the capsizing of 3 ferries in the Iloilo-Guimaras Strait. MMDA says it will push through with its scheduled provincial bus ban dry run on Wednesday despite a court order temporarily stopping its implementation. And a Filipino arrested during Hong Kong protests now out on bail. Good evening. The Philippine Coast Guard and the Maritime Industry Authority will conduct a joint investigation following the 3-boat accidents in the Iloilo Strait last Saturday. Meanwhile, a seafarers group believes the 2 agencies should be held liable for the sea mishap. Harleen Delgado explains why.
The Philippine Coast Guard or PCG agrees to stop the use of wooden-hulled boats to assure the safety of passengers. This after the multiple accidents involving motorbankers in the Iloilo Strait last weekend, which left 28 persons dead.
Kung may chance na mas safer yung mga boats na magamit eventually, hindi na yung mga dekatig that can withstand yung mga alon, mas maganda.
However, the United Filipino Seafarers believe that the PCG and Marina should be held liable for the sea mishap. The group says Marina allegedly has failed to implement its directive to phase out all wooden-hulled bankers commercially transporting passengers since 2018, as mandated in its memorandum circular released in 2016. In a statement, Marina says it has suspended operations of motorbankers while conducting a thorough assessment and evaluation of the said memorandum. Meanwhile, a boat maker company says that boats without riggers are much prone to capsizing with big waves.
Kapag maalon yan, most of the time they say it's stable kasi may cutting. Pero pag maalon, yan yung unang tutukod sa tubig, which causes the capsize of the boat.
Based on their study, boat operators are actually willing to upgrade their boats. The problem? They cannot afford that. One fiberglass boat that can carry up to 40 passengers costs 10 million pesos. But the ALS stresses a fiberglass boat's quality, speed, and safety are an advantage compared to traditional wooden boats.
The benefit of riding a speedboat compared to a decatig, it's faster. So actually, the passengers, they're willing to pay more. Kasi yung 2 hours, they can reach 30 minutes or 45 minutes. So, kahit sabihin nila mas mahal ng konti, yung time cost will also equate to the fare na tumaas.
Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
More and more congressmen are joining the National Unity Party or NUP, including presidential son Davao City Representative Paulo Duterte. Meanwhile, Manila City Mayor Isko Moreno gets higher position in the party. Grace Casen reports why.
15 new members of National Unity Party took their oath on Tuesday. The political party is now the 3rd largest group in the lower house with 57 members. Some members of the ruling party, Partido Demokratiko Pilipino Lakas ng Bayan or PDP Laban, have also jumped to the NUP.
Actually, meron kasing mga kanya-kanya kaming trabaho. So, ang feeling lang ng iba, maybe, and talagang sinasabi niya, bakit ako, wala pa, ganito. Talagang meron ka talagang waiting time You really have to wait kung kailan ka mabibigyan ng committee. So doon siguro nagkakaroon ng konting higing-higing na meron talagang paksyon.
In the PDP party, where it is a very large party and a dominant party at that, I will be swimming among big fishes.
Meanwhile, Manila City Mayor Isko Moreno got elected as Vice President for Political Affairs from being a Deputy Secretary General of the NUP.
Pasalamat tayo, lalo na rin kay Secretary Puno, being our chairman.
Presidential son Davao City Representative Paulo Duterte also joins NUP, but he is an adopted member. He will remain as the head of his current local party, Hugpong ng Tawong Lungsod in Davao City. NUP Chairman Ronnie Puno defended Congressman Duterte against issues that he has a plan to be a House Speaker after the term of House Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano.
from what I've seen of him, I do not think he has that kind of ambition.
Grace Cassin, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
President Rodrigo Duterte dismisses the possibility of him declaring martial law in Negros Oriental because of the series of killings in the province. The chief executive said the drastic measure he may take to resolve the issue of peace and order in eastern Negros is to send more military troops. The chief executive made the statement when he led the oath-taking of newly elected officials of the League of Cities in the Philippines and the Liga ng mga Barangay in Malacanang this afternoon.
There will never be a time that I will declare martial law. What I said was that I would take drastic action. Martial law, pati kung lagyan mo lang yan ng mga tropa dyan, it's the same. It has nothing to do with, you do not go after innocent people. Martial law, you go after the lawless elements.
The House leaders eyed the early passage of the proposed 2020 national budget and a zero veto of bills under the 18th Congress. Here's Grace Cassin to explain why.
House leaders don't want another delay in the passage of the national budget. This 18th Congress, they are target to pass the proposed 2020 national budget by October.
Mahirap magsalita ng tapos, but our target is efficiency, quality, yet faster.
President Rodrigo Duterte has approved the 4.1 trillion pesos proposed national budget for 2020. The bulk of the budget goes to education, public works, transportation, and health. This will be submitted in the lower house before the August 21, 2019 deadline. According to Malacanang, the proposed budget will address the need of public for basic services, infrastructure, education, poverty, and even the attainment of peace, as well as the development of the country. Senator Panfilo Lacson on his part said he will scrutinize the proposed budget, especially if pork barrels still gets to be inserted, or if there are any questionable funds. He adds he will also look into the health department's budget.
Kasi pag pinabayaan mo, kung saan lang napunta, ang dami nasasayang. Ngayon nga, nakita natin, one of the biggest beneficiaries ng budget sa 2020 is the DOH. And nakita natin sa overstocking lang, we're counting over 3 billion.
Meanwhile, the House officials eye a zero veto in passing bills in the 18th Congress. They plan to have a regular meeting with the upper chamber and the Presidential Legislative Liaison Office representatives to make sure that the President agrees on every provisions of the bill they are tackling.
As Senate President Soto said, dapat sa hearings pa lang, nag-attend na yung legislative liaison. Number 3, of course, Senator Bongo is now in the Senate, so may direct line din.
As of now, the members and chairman of the House committees are not yet completed, but the House Speaker of the House vows to fill all the positions for them to start the hearings. Grace Castin, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Philippine National Police Chief General Oscar Albayalde has ordered the PNP Anti-Cybercrime Group to verify reports that an online messaging board reportedly being used as a resource for violent extremism is being hosted in the country. Moments before the Saturday mass shooting at the Walmart store in El Paso, Texas that left 20 killed, a 4-page message from a person who identified himself as the gunman was shown on 8chan. International news wire services reported that the 8chan website is being hosted in the Philippines, while the New York Times said it has been run out of the country. The messaging board is owned by NT Technology, owned by Jim Watkins, an American who has been reportedly living in the Philippines since 2004. The New York Times had described 8chan as a megaphone for gunmen and has been a go-to resource for violent extremists, saying at least 3 mass shootings this year have been announced on the website's messaging board before they carried out the crime. Should police in the Philippines find a reason to shut down 8chan, Albayalde said the PNP has to write a formal complaint. 55 cops will undergo retraining. The Philippine National Police Chief says the problem of these cops is discipline. Leia Ilagan details why.
PNP Chief Police General Oscar Albayalde reprimanded 55 policemen today. Those police officers are facing minor offenses like tardiness, minor extortion, absent without official leave, and mishandling of drug cases. They are just some of the more than 5,000 airing cops according to the PNP.
It's not the system. Ang problema natin yung pag-uugali natin. Tandaan yan. The problem is attitude. You may think that you are already senior. Eh kung senior kayo, you should not be doing what you have done. Wala, dapat kayo rito. Di ba? Hindi kayo dapat nagagalit sa akin. Di ba? Well, I don't care. Hindi ko pakialam yung galit nyo. Ang pakialam ko is the organization. I cannot put you over and above the organization, gentlemen. My priority is the PNP, not you.
The cases of the airing cops, however, are not grounds for dismissal from service. General Albayalde said they have decided to give the police officers a second chance.
So this is the best time for you to pray and to reflect. This is the best time for you to become a better person probably, or a better police officer.
The 55 reprimanded policemen are the second batch of airing cops sent to Subic in Zambales to undergo restorative training or focused reformation, reorientation, and moral enhancement. This measure is part of the PNP's cleansing efforts within their ranks. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
Mayor Isko Moreno plans to speak with the parents of the children rescued in Manila City streets in the past 30 days. Here's April Sinadoza to tell us why.
There is a law that punishes the parents under the concept of neglect of minors. No? Now we're looking into it.
This is what Manila City Mayor Isko Moreno said after the Manila Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, rescued 365 children in less than 30 days. In a Facebook post, the mayor calls on parents to fetch their children who were rescued and to take care of them completely. Manila DSWD Director Maria Fugoso says not all rescued kids were from Manila, so they refer the children to other Metro Manila local government units.
Bakit hindi sila sinusundo ng mga magulang? Hindi ba dapat hinahanap na yung mga anak nila? At alam naman nila kung nasan yung mga anak nila araw-araw. Nakakapagtaka lang.
Of the 365 rescued minors, only 129 children have been fetched by their parents as of yesterday. According to Manila DSWD, the remaining kids are staying at the Manila Boys Town located in Marikina City. She clarifies they would not let the facilities of Manila Boys Town be congested. The Manila City LGU has been advising parents not to let their kids stay on the streets as to avoid bad influence. April Senedoza, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
The dry run of the provincial bus ban on EDSA will push through beginning tomorrow despite a suspension order from the court. Joan Nano tells us why.
Despite of the issuance of a writ of preliminary injunction suspending the implementation of the provincial bus ban on EDSA, the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority, or MMDA, will push through with the dry run of the traffic scheme beginning tomorrow. However, MMDA General Manager Jojo Garcia clarifies they will not oblige bus operators to comply with the dry run. During today's press conference, the MMDA said that it is the discretion of the operators if they will drop and load their passengers at the interim terminals in Valenzuela City and Santa Rosa, Laguna.
If ever may gustong testingin, nakabukas yung mga interim na yan. Meaning, nandyan na yan. Anyone can pass, anyone can stop if they want to try.
Garcia added he is confident that many operators will comply since many of them have expressed their commitments to adhere with the policy during their meeting last week.
Kaya nga hindi ko sila pinasusunod, hindi ako nag-order. Ang sinasabi ko, nagboluntaryo ka dumaan dyan, nakaready kami. Pero hindi ko kayo inuutusan na dumaan dyan.
No penalty will be imposed on bus drivers and operators who will not participate in the dry run. According to MMDA's data, there are around 7,000 to 8,000 provincial buses that traverse EDSA every day, so they are confident that dry run will have a big impact in easing traffic congestion in EDSA. Meanwhile, the MMDA will file a motion for reconsideration against the injunction issued by the court. Jo Anano, UNTV News and Rescue, Makati City.
And to complete the most significant news for this day, Y News continues. Here are the top stories. The Department of Health declares a national dengue epidemic in the country. Isko Miguel explains why.
Just between July 14 to July 20, 2019, there are more than 10,000 dengue cases recorded nationwide. Because of the continuing rise in the number of dengue cases since January this year, the Health Department declares a national dengue epidemic.
In the wake of the 146,062 cases recorded since January up to July 20 this year, this is 98% higher than the same period in 2018. And alarmingly, there have been reports of 622 deaths. So mataas ito at 0.4% case fatality rate.
Secretary Delfin Lorenzana, as the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council Chair, supports the declaration.
Kaya nga meron tayong memorandum circular that was signed by me a while ago so that all agencies that are members of the NDRRMC know what they are doing.
The Science and Technology departments have also volunteered to provide dengue diagnostic kits and even the development of supplements which can help prevent and strengthen the immune system of an individual seen with the symptoms of dengue.
The kit offers a simplified method of confirming the presence of dengue virus in a patient's blood. Thus, it can be used to detect dengue infections at the start of the fever. It will be rolled out nationwide, starting with regions with reported high number of dengue cases.
Health Secretary Francisco Duque III also clarifies they will have to come up with a decision on the French pharmaceutical Sanofi Pasteur's plea to consider giving the product its certificate of product registration within 10 to 14 days. But Secretary Duque makes it clear it is impossible to use Dengvaxia again for immunization in the country.
The Dengvaxia, according to the WHO, this is not recommended for an outbreak response, number one. Number two, this is not cost effective. This vaccine does not squarely address the most vulnerable group, which is the 5 to 9 years of age.
The government agencies continue to campaign the strengthening of the 4S strategy, emergency protocols, and conducting the 4 o'clock habit to eradicate dengue-carrying mosquitoes. Isko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Meanwhile, the Philippine government is studying a possible ban of Filipino workers' deployment to Hong Kong. Ferdy Petalio clarifies why.
The Filipino in Hong Kong arrested for allegedly joining the ongoing protest was released from detention after posting bail yesterday afternoon. Consul Paul Soret, head of the Assistance to National Section of the Philippine Consulate General, said the Filipino identified as Jetro Pio Quinto was released around 5:30 p.m. on Monday afternoon after paying a bail of 2,000 Hong Kong dollars or roughly 13,000 pesos.
Kasi wala naman doon nakita doon sa bahay niya. And ang pinaka-importante, nung nahuli siya, dala lang niya cellphone at saka octopus card. Nag-object yung prosecution, normal naman na mag-object yung prosecution. Pero ultimately, sinabi ng judge na okay, pwede kang makalaya, pwede kang bumalik ng trabaho, pero yung cash bail, $2,000. Pagkatapos, pinapag-report siya every Wednesday sa Mongkok police station.
The OFW had undergone investigation for unlawful assembly over his alleged participation in the ongoing anti-government protest in Hong Kong. He, however, categorically denied any involvement in the rallies.
Lalakad daw siya kasi naghahanap siya ng makakainan. And then napunta siya doon sa kalye na may mga protesters. Nung hinabol lang mga pulis yung mga protesters, tumakbo rin siya kasi natakot siya. Di hinabol na rin siya. Doon siya na pin down sa ground pagkatapos inaresto siya.
Police fired tear gas at protesters in multiple rallies at different parts of Hong Kong every day since Saturday, after protesters adopted a hit-and-run tactic that see them blocking roads or pelting police stations before moving on to another district. On Monday, a general strike paralyzed the city's subway system and caused several flight cancellations while several businesses closed their shops. Calm returned to Asian financial hub on Tuesday morning, with roads becoming passable and workers reporting back to work, some of whom are expressing their support for the protesters' actions. Chaos is caused by the government, not the protester. Meanwhile, the government is still studying the possibility of implementing deployment ban of overseas Filipino workers to Hong Kong. For now, the government is strictly monitoring the events in Hong Kong and cautions Filipino to stay away from rally areas. The government reiterates that the welfare of the Filipinos remains to be top priority of the Philippine government.
Tayong concern. The president will always be concerned when the safety of our countrymen is at stake.
Ferdy Petalio, UNTV News and Rescue, Hong Kong.
And for the news abroad, here's Kath de Maraos reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand. What's the latest stories from abroad, Kath?
Good evening, William. Former U.S. President Barack Obama has called on Americans to reject language from any of their leaders that feeds hatred or normalizes racism. Beverly Saison explains why.
Former U.S. President Barack Obama on Monday released a pointed statement condemning language coming out of the mouths of any of our leaders that normalizes racist sentiments. In a statement released on Twitter, Obama did not mention U.S. President Donald Trump by name, but his reference seemed clear. Obama's Monday statement comes after a shooter opened fire Saturday at an El Paso, Texas shopping center, killing at least 22 people. Hours later, early Sunday morning, a shooter opened fire in a popular downtown area of Dayton, Ohio, killing 9 people. A 21-year-old white man has been charged with capital murder in Saturday's shooting spree in Texas. Police in El Paso cited a racist anti-immigrant manifesto posted online shortly before the shooting, which they attributed to the suspect. In a statement, Obama added, "Americans are not helpless," and called for tighter gun controls. Obama's statement Monday was a rare occasion when the former president, who has generally avoided commenting on politics since leaving office, spoke out. Democrats said Trump was indirectly to blame for the attack in Texas, with some drawing connections between his rhetoric to a resurgence in nationalism and xenophobic sentiment. Trump on Monday proposed tighter monitoring of the internet, mental health reform, and wider use of the death penalty in response to mass shootings.
We must reform our mental health laws to better identify mentally disturbed individuals who may commit acts of violence and make sure those people not only get treatment, but when necessary, involuntary confinement. Mental illness and hatred pulls the trigger, not the gun.
Trump said he had directed the Justice Department to work with local authorities and social media companies to detect mass shooters before they strike. He said the internet, social media, and violent video games had helped radicalized people.
We must recognize that the internet has provided a dangerous avenue to radicalize disturbed minds and perform demented acts. We must shine light on the dark recesses of the internet and stop mass murders before they start.
Beverly Saison, UNTV News and Rescue, USA.
Protests were held across Pakistan on Monday as the government said it has strongly condemned India's constitutional changes in the disputed Himalayan region of Kashmir claimed by both countries. This report explains why. Indian-administered Kashmir remains in a state of lockdown a day after it was stripped of special status that gave it significant autonomy. Landlines, mobiles, and internet, which were cut off on Sunday evening, are yet to be restored even as tens of thousands of troops patrol the streets. The revocation of special status triggered widespread protests in Pakistan, but there is no word on how people have reacted to the news. In Muzaffarabad, the capital of Pakistan-administered Kashmir, dozens of protesters rallied and chanted, "Kashmir wants freedom." There were also protests in Islamabad, the capital, and Pakistan's commercial hub of Karachi. The Prime Minister of Pakistan-administered Kashmir said he had complete faith in Pakistan's armed forces to defend against Indian mischief. Article 370 allowed the state a certain amount of autonomy, its own constitution, a separate flag, and the freedom to make laws, though foreign affairs, defense, and communications remained the preserve of the central government. As a result, Jammu and Kashmir could make its own rules relating to citizenship, ownership of property, and fundamental rights. It could also bar Indians from outside the state from purchasing property or settling there.
Constitutionally, it is sound. No constitutional or legal fault can be found in it, and the government has carefully studied the matter and taken into account all considerations.
The region is claimed in its entirety by both India and Pakistan, but they each control only parts of it. Kat Numaraos, UNTV News and Rescue.
A masked Rio de Janeiro inmate dressed as a woman tried to break out of a Brazilian jail this weekend in a surreal act of daring do, only to be thwarted on the cusp of freedom by state prison authorities. Jovic Burmas tells us why.
Filipino da Silva, a drug dealer from the city of Agua dos Reis, was caught by prison guards at the Bangu jail complex in Rio State on Saturday as he tried to exit via the front door after visiting hours. The Rio State Prison Authority said his plan was to leave his daughter inside the prison in his place.
Realmente foi ato de desespero.
It was truly an act of desperation by the prisoner. He is serving a 73-year jail sentence and has received an additional 25 years.
Foi ato de desespero dele.
In a video released by prison authorities, he is seen wearing a plastic mask, a long black wig, glasses, and women's clothes, including a bra. As prison officials made him take off his elaborate disguise, he eventually appears in the flesh wearing a sullen expression.
Nós ainda estamos.
We are still investigating, but everything seems to point to a pregnant woman who managed to bring it in.
Grávidas para tentar.
Rio's prison authority said his daughter and 7 other people were arrested on suspicion of having tried to help him escape. Silva, meanwhile, was moved to the La Urcia da Costa Pellegrino jail unit and will face punishment, it added. Brazil's prisons have become a major headache for new President Jair Bolsonaro, who has vowed to crack down on years of growing crime and violence. Last week, at least 57 people died after a prison riot broke out in the northern state of Pará. More than a dozen were decapitated. Brazil's incarcerated population has surged 8-fold in 3 decades to around 750,000 inmates, the world's 3rd highest tally. The gangs have been linked to bank heists, drug trafficking, and gun running, with jailed kingpins presiding over criminal empires via smuggled cell phones. Jovic Burmas, UNTV News and Rescue.
Greenland's massive ice sheet is experiencing one of its biggest melting events on record, losing some 11 billion tons of ice in a 24-hour period after Earth's hottest June and July in recorded history. Temperatures in Europe have soared to record highs this summer in an ongoing trend of longer summers and excessive heat due to climate change. Hot air originating in North Africa broke records in major cities across Europe last month before making its way to the Greenland ice sheet. According to NASA, Greenland's glaciers are undergoing a major melting event with billions of tons of meltwater draining into the Atlantic Ocean, enough to cover the entire state of Florida with nearly 5 inches of water. Over half of the Greenland ice sheet has softened as a direct result of this heat, which has caused an immediate rise in seawater. And those are the news from the other parts of the globe. Back to you, William.
Thank you very much, Kath Maraos, reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand. Riga Ghetto of Latvia won their 2nd Masters of the season. This after defeating American team Princeton in the final of the FIBA 3x3 World Tour Prague Masters on August 3-4, 2019 with final scores 21-12. The victory comes 4 months after winning their first ever Masters in Doha, Qatar. Serbian team Zemun finished third. Riga Ghetto's Carlis Lasmanis was named MVP of the Prague Masters after topping the scoring list. Conjoined twins from Senegal are about to start full-time nursery in their new home of Cardiff, defying the expectation that they would only live a few days. Nina Armilio will tell us why.
Doctors have been surprised by conjoined twins' progress, discovering that the closely linked circulatory systems that make it impossible to separate them is also the reason they have continued to thrive, as both girls are mutually dependent on each other. Born in May 2016, sharing crucial organs, Mariam and Ndiaye have now lived 3 years. The twins' father, Ibrahima Ndiaye, originally brought his daughters to the UK in the hope they would get a better life, while surgeons at London's Great Ormond Street Hospital considered separation as recently as January. Scans showed that would be impossible due to a shared liver, bladder, and digestive system, although they have separate hearts and spines.
Both the girls' hearts and circulations particularly are completely entwined with each other, and as well as Mariam being dependent on Ndiaye is actually dependent on Mariam for being alive. So long term, this actually sadly means that they can't be separated on a very practical level.
Ibrahima is pleased his daughters are developing well in the face of early expectations, allowing him to focus on their future. However, he's realistic about the situation the girls are in and its potentially life-limiting complications.
I know what I want for them to happen, and I will do whatever possible for it to happen.
The girls currently attend nursery for a few hours a week, but will start going every weekday from September. Meanwhile, Ibrahima is setting up a charity, Conjoined Destiny, to help other children with similar disabilities. Nina Armilio, UNTV, News and Rescue.
And those are the reasons behind the news this August 6, 2019. On behalf of Alex Baltazar and Angelo Castro III, I am William Theo, and before we close, we will recap with today's significant sound bites. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Good evening.
In the wake of the 146,062 cases recorded since January up to July 20 this year, this is 98% higher than the same period in 2018. And alarmingly, there have been reports of 622 deaths.
He said, remember that I said before that there will be a time when I will invoke an arbitral ruling. This is the time. That's why I'm going there.
There will never be a time that I will declare martial law. What I said was that I would take drastic action.
It's not the system. Ang problema natin yung pag-uugali natin. Tandaan yan. The problem is attitude, the character. Eh kung senior kayo, you should not be doing what you have done. Wala, dapat kayo rito. Hindi kayo dapat nagagalit sa akin. Diba? And I don't care.
Hindi tayong concern. You know, the president will always be concerned when the safety of our countrymen is at stake.